BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor and take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. In today's episode, I interview professional tennis player Ashley Leahy. From being a top-ranked college tennis player at Pepperdine to facing significant setbacks like major surgeries, Ashley shares her journey of persistence, identity, and finding joy both on and off the court. She discusses the impact of her family, her transformative college experience, and her perspective on setbacks and success. In this episode, you'll gain insights into her story and learn valuable life lessons about dedication, passion, and living a balanced life. At the time of recording, Ashley was in Spain preparing for her next tennis tournament, and internet bandwidth was a little bit questionable during the episode. Nonetheless, it was a fantastic conversation. I look forward to you hearing her story and how it can resonate to your Built to Be journey. What are you built to be? What are you built to become? The time is now. The time is right now. You weren't built to break. You were built to be something greater. Welcome to Season 2 of the BTB Project. I'm your host, Kollman Gearhart. I was the overweight kid, one counted out, lost 100 pounds, found purpose in the pain, and turned my setbacks into a story worth telling. This podcast isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about identity, discipline, and comebacks. Getting up one more time and becoming who we're always meant to be. If you're ready to go deep, do the work, and live out what you're built to be, you're in the right place. Let's lock in, let's rise, and let's get to work. Well, as we continue to kick off Season 2 of the BTB Project, I come again humbled, as I remember a time and a place back in the day down at Gates Tennis Center in Colorado. I come across this young lady that happened to be dropping in on a hitting session. At the time was living in Boulder, Colorado, was looking for additional hits with some of the best players in the state. Eventually took her talents to California at the age of 12, became the #1 ranked collegiate tennis player at Pepperdine, and is currently on the Pro Tour and has been polite and unbelievably humbled enough herself to take some time all the way from Spain to join me and to tell her story on the BTB Project. Welcome, Miss Ashley Leahy.
Awesome. I'm really excited.
As we've been able to connect some of the dots, we've come across some players that you've competed with, you've trained with, and here you are still battling even after a recent surgery. When you think of your career as a whole, Ashley, what comes to mind when you think of setbacks and your go-to attitude on how you overcome them?
Interesting, because this is like such a common question that I've had to answer so many times throughout my career, and it changes every year. Because we obviously mature and we go through more setbacks and different kinds of setbacks. Also, just in general, as a junior, it's like this sport is so all-consuming. And when you go into an all-consuming sport as a really young kid, I was talking with someone about this the other day, but it's like, you just got here to play on Earth. You don't have that much experience. And then you dedicate your life to a career. I started training when I was 12, and I was playing every day from when I was a little kid. And ask my answer to that question and setbacks, like discipline and sacrifice and like knowing what your goals are. Because my whole world was tennis, and it was a different thing in the world. And so when I was injured and then did better, it was always about, okay, tennis in that my mind got, the first time get into my other experiences on court and everything, but you injuries I feel like are a little bit of a place where you get to step away. And then this last one for me was really eye opening. I think I realized like this wasn't so much of a setback and it was an eye opener. What it looks in the rest of my life looks like. And now the way I see it is like the way I'm going to go about tennis, the way I'm going to approach it is so different. I wanted something that mastering my craft and doing the best that I can, something putting everything I have into it, but that it's not the center of my world. Getting to take a step away and literally not think about tennis at all for a year because first I was always thinking when I was like trying to get a diagnosis and I didn't know what was going on. But then when I realized I had to have a major surgery that was going to take me out for 9 months, I was able to just completely put the rackets away for a little bit and just live a normal person and recognize that like when tennis is over, I'm going to have a life completely outside of it. And it's going to be like in the back of your mind, you know that a little bit, but you also don't because like I said, you start out playing tennis at such a young age. So people tell you like, oh, when you retire, like there's going to be other things going on. And if you give it your all, you're not going to regret it or whatever. But you don't really know that. You always think, oh, if I don't achieve what I want to achieve, then I'm going to feel that regret for the rest of my life. When I realized, oh, I put the rackets in the bag and I went and lived life and I didn't think about it and it didn't bother me. And I realized I had to come to terms with the fact that I might not play again with this pretty intense surgery. And then I was okay with that. Just looking back, I think there's this injury and another one and so many things that at the time seemed like these huge obstacles. And now I realize they were just learning experiences. This is such a long-winded answer to your very simple question, but it's to like face the setbacks and as if they're not really setbacks, but as if they're intentional experiences that are there for you in your journey, for you to learn the things that you need to learn and to move with them rather than trying to fight against them. And I've tried to fight against them and it doesn't work. Now, like moving with them. Sorry for the longest answer ever.
Hey, no, listen, I'm sorry for asking you a redundant question, and I promise that that will not be the theme of this interaction because I've done a little bit of homework and I've realized that as much as we can pinpoint success has been part of your journey in tennis, and you've had a lot of wins, very few losses in college, and ultimately what I've noticed is what you've done off the court and that kind of perspective shift. I'd love for you to maybe talk about outside of the injuries, sometimes where you did have a moment off court and you're like, wow, there's so much more to life than just forehands and backhands, because seeing some images of you in Uganda and Kenya and having those kids on your shoulders, I think that there's a perspective shift that you've had that I'd love for you to share with the listeners.
Oh, absolutely. I think I was really fortunate to go to a college that prioritized our motto was purpose, service, and leadership. And I think what I realized is just being around all my professors they really embodied, and my professors and my coaches, everybody around me during that time was so grounded in their faith and like their values and their purpose. That's like the best word for it. Around those kinds of personalities that are not like willy-nilly chasing this clock and this success and whatever. And they're just like there, living, giving, loving. That energy is super, super infectious and it makes you realize who you want to be and how you want to be. And it was very easy for me at Pepperdine to start gravitating towards that kind of behavior and to start like going on and seeing like what it means to serve, what it means to lead, what it means to create, starting foundation, that kind of stuff. It was just very gravitated towards that. And the beginning of my mind opening towards there's life outside tennis. And I spent a summer in Kenya with my classmates. We were studying a biology as well as working at an orphanage in Kenya for kids who were taken off the streets and they're given an education and food and training and everything. And we got to work with those kids and be with them and teach them classes, I love teaching in general, but it was such an incredible environment to be in, like, with young, bright minds, like super engaged in what you're saying and excited to learn and to be And that was the first, most of the people didn't even know what tennis was. And so it was like, oh, wait, like they don't care what my grades are. They don't care what my tennis win loss record is. They're just really excited to learn this new thing or to play soccer with me or to dance. And it definitely solidified that, oh, I have an identity outside of this. And that helped me with my senior year.
The interesting part about perspective is we talked about it before we hopped on is like you're either learning it through an actual experience or you're hearing it from somebody else and then their experience and how to apply it. You hit the nail on the head. The best way to learn something or to understand something is to immerse yourself in it. And with that said, I know that, success is something that you were able to come across in tennis, but being the youngest of a younger sibling, I have a brother that's 4 years older than me, used to kick my butt in every sport, baseball, soccer, all you can think of. And then I pick up a tennis racket one day and I end up beating him. And that was how I began my tennis journey. But being a sibling of older siblings, how has that attested to your competitive spirit and your ability to handle competition, knowing that you're getting it at a young age?
My siblings are a lot older than me. My sister's older than me, and my brother's 14 years older than me. My brother was in college when I was there and then moved to California and started his own life and everything. So he wasn't competing with me because there was just a little bit of an unfair gap between 4-year-old.
You never know these days.
But my sister, I think more than like someone that I was competing with or trying to compare myself to, was just a really good role model for me because she swam on a full scholarship at USC and was very dedicated to her craft, not only achieving excellence in swimming and as well in her life. And I've watched her. She's a great mom now and has always given 110% and intelligent and dedicated and just like a really good role model. I've never felt like, oh, I got to beat her in anything. It's more just, yeah, awesome.
I think that that's great because whether it's a role model or someone that you can compete with, I've noticed that a lot of competitive drive from athletes have it right within the family. So I think that's really neat. That story. That's so cool.
She did really well. She super dedicated from a very young age. I think that's a trope that you're talking. You got Venus and Serena, the Andrea was, and I think there's something about that younger sibling, like when they have a really good um, older sister, that they become like some of the best in the world is because they're trying to keep up and everything that their older sibling is doing at a younger age too.
Pepperdine Waves. I had the privilege of going there a few times to compete. I tried to throw a rock into the ocean from campus. It's pretty close, but not close enough. But an unbelievably beautiful place, and obviously the time that you spent in Southern California. It's pretty wild how you ended up there because I remember a time and a place when I went down to San Francisco, and at the time I was watching the national championships. This was 2005, and it rained out, so they moved all of it to indoors in downtown San Francisco. And I remember watching this young man that I grew up playing against named Richard Johnson serving out the national championship on a broken foot for Pepperdine, and somehow, some way got it done. So when you think of your journey to Pepperdine and the Colorado tennis ties to your decision, because you had a lot of schools that you could have easily chosen over Pepperdine, I'd love for you to share with the listeners how those stories and that particular individual impacted you.
Richard's awesome. I was so young when I worked with him, but I remember just like I had really bad ADHD. And as a kid, I just had so much energy. And I remember him just like walking to the court, like, oh my gosh, that's what deal with this kid. He's just like bouncing off the walls for the next hour.
I would have loved to seen that, by the way, because he's not the most extroverted guy.
Very calm, very steady. It was so random because I didn't even make the connection that he had played for pair team. He called me and I was somehow, I can't remember how it came about that he had that connection. College coaches can big game and can say whatever they want to say. And then there's that story when you get there. I remember connecting pair and really wanting to go to that school like, to work with him. I think there were a couple of factors that were drawing me to other schools that were outweighing that, but I was like, that's like a huge pro. Right? I asked her, like, is that really, is that really his and how he is? And he's 100% like, you have to go there. He's a great coach. He definitely pushed me in that direction. And when it was a very tough decision to make, he made me confident that I was making the right decision. And 1000% was the right decision. I have no regrets whatsoever. Some of the best 4 years of my life. The one thing I always complain about is that it was way too good. Like the situation was such a bubble world. Like I said, you're surrounded by like some of the most grounded, wonderful people that you've ever been surrounded by. And they're all like super concentrated and your team and your best friends. And it's just the greatness and everything's paid for. And life is just like a vibe. And then you get thrown out into the world. You're like, what's going on? That's my complaint. Too good. Not realistic.
So is it fair to say the demands of what you're doing now, obviously the tour life and the journey per se of doing that? I know that originally the plan was for you to spend 1 year in college and then go on the tour. I'd love for you to speak to, yes, it can be a bubble world in college, but the team aspect and doing something that's bigger than yourself. I mean, what did it mean to you to make that decision to stay at Pepperdine? And when you look back, would you change anything, or do you think that team aspect helped you in what you're doing today?
Like I said, my decisions change all the time. I think playing for the team was one of the most fun and exciting experiences of my life. The original decision was to play 1 year and then to go pro. But I didn't play a team side of Pepperdine. I didn't have a coach or like a great sponsor or anything, even the resources to find a great situation for myself. So I feel like I got a lot better when I was in school and competing, doing well, coaching, and everything organized. And then in the summer, things were just all over. Like I played really well the first 3 tournaments in the summer, and then everything would fall apart because I didn't have the consistency of training. I didn't have anything. I think looking back in my career, just because our careers are so short, I would have loved to have found a situation like I have now in Spain with a great coach and a job that I can actually financially support myself. I think if I had this situation younger, I could have done a lot more with my tennis career. But who knows going on with life? And I think I a lot more in my tennis career than I have as a professional with like different circumstances. And then also with like we were talking about with the Herd Scholarship and just turning pro, no resources.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. We're in the now and I'm happy with the situation that I have and excited to see what I can do with my last few years out here longer. And so I don't feel like it's too late for me. Would have liked to have seen what I could have done with a better situation younger and maybe 2 years of college and then, finding a stable situation like this. But I did love playing team. And I think that was the best for me, given the options that I had at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, well said. I think the path and the trajectory that you have now, being on the back end of a significant knee injury, and then the optimism that you have of being in the right situation. Timing and situations can be the weirdest things in the
Yeah.
world because sometimes it never seems clear, and then all of a sudden you see a path.
Yeah.
And I think that is really interesting to me because a lot of people in your situation don't continue forward. They give up. They don't want to keep pushing along. So for you to be in the situation you're in right now, share the moment where you thought, heck, this tennis thing might be done. And at what point did you decide that you had the opportunity that you have now maybe just that overcoming one of the more challenging moments. I'd love to hear your point of view.
That's a lot to do with my fiance. I got into medical school last year, and I was deciding last summer, so summer of 2024, whether to go to medical school. And I had a couple of options. We're based in Dallas, and I got into one in Houston, New York, and Northern California. There was a wait list at UCLA, and I think if I had gotten in, I would not or I got into UCLA medical school. But I was like, I pulled myself off that wait list because I'm like, I don't even want to have to make this decision. I remember talking to him because I have some good friends that I love. I was pre-med, obviously, at Pepperdine, and that was another big reason why I stayed in school, was because I just loved school so much. I loved learning. The most exciting thing I'd ever done, learning about the world around us and our bodies and how they work. It was super fascinating to me. And I was very passionate about that. And then building a hospital in Uganda, I got super into health there. And then just love experiences. I was like, I want to be a doctor. Obviously, it's like a bit of a process to apply for medical school between the MCAS and volunteering hours and everything. And so getting in, it wasn't just, oh yeah, I got it, like go another time. It was a huge decision to not go. Right. Thousands of applications and everything. Looking last summer about Ford, and he's like, I'm going to support you, whatever you do, or if I go to a different or whatever, I'll move with you. And he had a job in Dallas, and we own a home there. And so it wouldn't have been an easy thing either way. But he's like, I'll support you no matter what. You're 25 now, never going to come back to tennis. I've always believed in you. I know you can do this. And not just the success side of things. I just feel like I didn't get to reap the rewards of all the work that I did right before I got injured. It was like 3 years of training, building, getting better, getting the level that I needed to really do what I wanted to do, and then getting stopped right as I was starting to see that progress happen. I just don't feel like this has run its course. Like, I don't feel like you got to see what you worked for, and I really think you should give it another year. And then one of the doctors that I was talking to about getting surgery, he's like, I went to medical school at 31. I was climbing mountains in my 20s. Like, he's like, no regrets whatsoever. He was like, don't go to medical school right now. Spend your 20s life doing what you want to do. And he's like, you could be a doctor for 35 years or 30 years. At the end of the day, what's the difference? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was my push was 10.
Yeah, the whole path that you just outlined, that's something that you can never forecast. That's literally just the ebbs and flows of life, and what you're doing now and where you want to go, being healthy, playing at a high level again, define success over these next 2 years of what would be a success for you at the tail end of this a couple of years from now.
Good question. My success has changed a lot over the years, and I think my idea of success right now is basically, just 3 tournaments back, and went there with one of my best friends from college and life in general. She's bridesmaid at my wedding, and we had the best time. We rented a car, we explored, we worked hard, we played hard, and just had a ton of fun. We organized game nights for all the other players that were staying in the area. People from all over the world, like, had real conversations, like played beach volleyball, and just kind of had enjoyed life. And I was like, I can't imagine a better definition of, at least from my perspective now, is I want to really live my life to the fullest. I want to make memories and have a good time with good friends, while still trying to like dedicate myself to mastering my craft. But I think, like I said, there's more that I want to do, and I don't that wanting to do the things is going to hinder me on court. There's this idea that we have to tell the way best, and that's just never worked for me in the past. I play my best when I'm happy off court, and I don't feel at high pressure. I already put the pressure on myself, so when I already feel oh, I'm gonna have to go sit in my hotel room and stare at the ceiling if I lose. Like, that's just too much pressure. I'd rather know that I'm gonna give it my best, but when the rockets are in the bag, I'm gonna go have a good day. And so that's my definition of success for 2 years, is like really just enjoying my 20s, enjoying this adventure, being able to tell my kids, like, I have friends like all over the world, and I've seen and done that, and really did my best, but also enjoyed my life. So yeah.
Yeah, it's eerily similar, Ashley, to some words that I heard from Madison Keys when she won her first major and said, I didn't need this. And she allowed herself to let go of what she perceived she needed to actually perform to have the outcome that she had. So put on your coach's hat for a second. And there's a lot of inspiring tennis players out there, and you're in the trenches right now of the tour, and you've had that perspective shift of, this is how I used to approach competing in the past. This is how I'm approaching competing now. What advice would you give someone that's looking to try to take this to the level that you're playing, and maybe some tips and tricks to not be so hard on themselves?
Good question. I think throughout my life, like, I don't want to I don't want to coach. I want to get out of tennis. Um, and now I'm starting to realize that, like, I actually do have a really deep love for the game. Now that I'm starting to be able to be less emotional and putting my identity in it,
Yeah.
I feel myself like wanting to. If I had kids, I wouldn't mind to play tennis. I would want to, or like, absolutely not. So I could see myself being a coach and trying to teach things to kids. The question is, what would I say? Like, how would I try? I would just try to let them know that this whole tennis world, for whatever reason, I'm hoping we're moving away from that, but it doesn't really feel like we are, is incredibly all
Yeah.
consuming. And you're going to have everybody preach at you that it's about sacrifice and tears and blood and sweat, and that you have to just be so focused. Everything has to be tennis. And I think that makes really fragile humans. And like, even if you do achieve everything that you want to, you're going to retire when you're the oldest, 38, 30. That's just a long career, but the very longest. Then you still live after that. So I think the biggest thing I would say is just try to engage in friendships. I remember as a kid, it was like, you're supposed to be competitive. You're not supposed to be friends with other people. And that was such a hard culture for me to become a part of. But I would say try to build your team with people that want to use tennis as an expression of the joy of being alive, and let joy and love and passion and mastering be your fuel. Not like Matt and Keith said, not I need this to complete myself. Come on, we're playing with rackets here. Yeah, that's what I would try to do.
Yeah, there's a quote that I've heard, and I got to get your take on it. And it's very simple. It's desire plus non resistance equals desired outcome. And when I first heard it, I'm like, this is totally contradictory to my story. I'm the walk-on guy who lost 100 pounds and willed himself to play D1 tennis. And the best tennis that I've ever played, Ashley, is almost like an out of body experience, to where I'm in this kind of flow state and my heart rate is staying low and I'm calm and I'm in alignment and I'm having fun and I'm noticing things outside of the court that make me appreciate the moment. So when I say that desired plus non-resistance equals desired outcome, in 2025 on the tour, as you're pursuing these matches, do you believe that's a quote that makes a little bit of sense in today's day and age?
For sure, yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think as long as the desire remains something that I desire success or I desire a certain outcome or certain or whatever. It's like I desire being here. I desire playing and enjoying and putting my best effort into it. And then the non-resistance, I think, is like the most essential part of that equation. Is just flow with it. Let it. I always, because it's what my favorite philosophers say, but the universe is the most incredible thing. If you look at how everything works together and our bodies and the planets and everything has to be exactly perfect. And that's like the energy that's flowing through you and that's flowing through everything. If you don't resist it and you trust it, imagine how it's created all of these beautiful things. Imagine how beautiful it can create your life. Like you just go with that flow.
Right.
If you want to be there and you desire to do what you're doing and you don't fight against it and try to control everything in every detail and you just come into the present moment, do your best, then absolutely. I think the sky is the limit and that you get into that flow state that you're talking.
As you think back, ironically, you and I have the connection of a coach in Boulder, Colorado, Coach Kendall. I owe him an immense amount of gratitude for what he did to help me. I'm curious, did you ever have a practice where he brought out only one brand new tennis ball and you tried to figure out how many you could hit in a row? Yeah, because I think my number was like 503 we were able to get to. So I'm curious what your number got to.
No, that sounds very familiar. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, so I remember that when I was a kid, and then also more recently during COVID, I was in Colorado and I would go there and practice, and we were still doing that. Man, I don't know what my number was though. Yeah, that's always a good way to start the practice. Get locked in right away.
When it comes to your career, you've obviously had some ups and downs and adversity that you've had to face, and we've walked through some of those moments. But ultimately, when this is all said and done, and it's not about wins and losses, but when people remember the American Ashley Leahy, how would you like to be remembered in the sport of tennis?
I mean, I think there's a way that I would like to be remembered, but that it's more about walking the walk than talking the talk. I want to I just want to be joyful. I want to bring that like positive energy and enjoyment to the sport, to the people that I play against and with, and on and off the court. Just really make the sport about what it was supposed to be about in the first place, which is just dedicating ourselves to something, learning how to be the best that we can be, learning life lessons through a little sport, little life in miniature. I like Agassi's quote about that. Living is like living a life in miniature. You have all the ups and the downs and the highs and lows and um, the everything that you're going through is preparing you for just so filled with lessons. And so I think that's the way I want to be remembered as someone who brings a lot of joy to the sport, but also really appreciates it for all that it is and all that it teaches. Um, and yeah, where I'm at right now, we'll see how I respond in another few years. It always seems to be changing and evolving.
Being a Colorado tennis player for a brief period of time, how do you develop the game in high altitude? Is it possible, or is it something that, as you've learned, the game isn't designed to be played at 5,280 feet?
Man, welcome to my life predicament right now. Like I said, really strongly considering wanting to go into coaching. And I also dream of going home, and my fiance as well. We want to live in Colorado. That's like our dream life, but I don't know if that's the best living or gee, possible. It's just really hard. Like, it's hard to get the fundamentals that, I mean, people do it. Like, he did it. He grew up in altitude over in
Yeah.
Italy and now lives in Boulder. Yeah, tough. If I were an academy in Colorado and get good players to come out of there, then I guess that'll be our experiment.
Well, it'll be very easy to send players your way, as I'm still in Colorado and a bunch of junior players asking me who are some folks that they should be hanging out with, Ashley Leahy would be very high on my list. So former ITA All-American, #1 in collegiate tennis, back battling on the tour. I'm very happy to hear that you're healthy. I'm happy to hear that you're continuing to fight. Tremendous story. I appreciate your perspective, and thank you for joining me today on the BTB Project.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. What a tremendous conversation with Ashley Leahy, and a ton of perspective to take away from her journey. Not just what's happened on the tennis court, but also what's happened off the tennis court and her volunteer work in Kenya and Uganda to overcoming her injuries. You know, I don't take lightly being one that was prone to injuries myself, the resiliency that she's had to overcome that most recent knee surgery and to get back on tour. It's a testament to her character, her strong will, her ability to fight. And that's something that should resonate with you as a listener. Each and every person that is tuned in, we all have difficult circumstances that we're looking to overcome. And ultimately, Ashley's resiliency and her ability to want to give back, whether it's through her potential profession of being a doctor or even as a coach, to have that humility and not just being a successful athlete, but willing to give back, truly resonated with me throughout the episode. But listen, if this episode impacted you, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, send the message to a family member, friend, or colleague, and tell them some parts of the episode that just truly resonated with you. It's each and every one of you listeners as a BTB community that allow us to come together, to overcome the odds, to live out that impossible is nothing, and to help each other along the way. As always, I'm proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.